dear participants, Excellencies, dear colleagues. I'm Shariful Islam, representing Minamata Convention Secretariat. Welcome to today's online event jointly organized by Uganda and Zero Mercury Working Group. This is the 15th of the 21 online events organized in the banner of COP5 online events. COP5 events are an informal platform for parties and observers to share information and bring knowledge to advances in technology, research, and policy to the attention of parties and to the global community that the convention serves. Before I hand this over to the moderator of the event, let me go through a few housekeeping notes. As you can see on the screen, you have the possibility to test and adjust your speaker and microphone settings by opening the audio and video menu at the top left corner of your screen. You can also adjust your speaker and microphones from the bottom of your screens. As you can see, there are audio options and video options. You can see your participants panel and the chat panel at the bottom right corner of your screen. You can open the chat panel and write your comments and questions to everyone. If you have any technical problem, you can write to the host. You have the possibility also to take the floor by raising the raised hand icon that appears at the bottom of your screen, also next to your name on the participants panel. Kindly note that this session is being recorded and broadcast live on YouTube. And at the end of the event, there is a post-webinar survey. Please feel free to complete the form so that we can improve our services and give you better services in the future. Thank you very much. Over to you, Charlene.
Thanks a lot, Shariful, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone to this new webinar that is going to be about addressing the global mercury crisis in skin lightening products. I am Charlene Chevar, Policy Officer on Mercury at the European Environmental Bureau and also supporting the work of the Zero Mercury Working Group, and I'm very pleased to be moderating the session of today. So as Shariful has mentioned it, this webinar is being co-hosted by the Zero Mercury Working Group, which is a global coalition of many different NGOs from all over the world that has been working towards reducing mercury pollution and also towards the implementation of the Minamata Convention. And it is also co-hosted with the government of Uganda, and thank you for that. So yes, today we are going to discuss an issue of great concern, and I would even say growing concerns, and it is the trade, manufacture, and use of mercury-added skin lightening product that we can find really everywhere around the world. And today we have gathered different panelists from different countries, from Uganda, the Philippines, and Pakistan. We'll talk about the challenges, the impact of those products, but also present some concrete measures that can be put in place by countries. And we will also present, as the Zero Mercury Working Group, we will also present the last publication that we have just released today, showing the magnitude of the issue. But I will kick off then the discussion with Anna Kafaro, who is the Principal Environment Officer at the National Environment Management Authority in Uganda, but also is the national focal point for the Minamata Convention on Mercury for Uganda. Anne, please, I give you the floor.
Thank you so much, Charlene. Greetings, everyone. Given that the time for the presentation is quite limited, I will not go so much into details, but will highlight the main points in my presentation. We can skip this one to save time. But otherwise, I'm here to emphasize the Africa regional position with regard to the amendment of the annexes that are looking at removing the 1 part per million in the skin lightening products, and also developing or agreeing on actions that would lead to the elimination of mercury in the skin lightening creams. The slide before you just shows you how vulnerable the African region is to the mercury pollution. The first figure shows you that in Africa, we do not mine mercury. So the burden, the waste management burden that we are facing today as a result of mercury pollution is actually coming from imported products. The second figure shows you that even where there are no alternatives to mercury added products, and these are being imported. In addition to non-waste mercury, the storage or the interim storage of such products is quite a challenge, as you can see in the graph. Next, please. I wish to share with you a case for Uganda with regard to mercury pollution. And here I would wish to emphasize that the pollution from the skin lightening products mainly ends up in water. And you know what that means with the livelihoods, the health, yeah, even for those who have not used these particular products, in water and land. And moreover, the risks of the skin lightening products containing mercury are more spread to the expectant mothers who happen to use them, or if the pregnant mothers use them, they are more at risk, including the children. Next, please. Whereas there are quite a number of legal framework that have been put in place in various countries within the African region, the problem still remains. It still remains. When you look at this graph, the figure before you, some African countries have taken meaningful steps to put in place laws, policies, regulations to restrict or actually stop the use of skin lightening products that contain mercury. However, much as our framework convention, the Minamata Convention on Mercury, indicates that it bans the manufacture and import or export of cosmetics over 1 part per million, still, even with the national legal framework that has even existed before this convention took place or came into force. If you look at Nigeria, they have a framework that came into 1982, Gambia 1995, and even before, still you find that statistics is showing these products are actually on the increase. Next, please. So despite the legal framework and the provision in the Minamata Conventions, challenges do exist in terms of ensuring that such products are limited, the skin lightening products that contain mercury. For instance, there are challenges in enforcement. There are really quite big challenges in enforcement. In addition, there are lengthy and expensive testing procedures. When a product is being imported, for instance, into Uganda, and probably they are testing to see if it contains mercury, this will take a period of 3 weeks. So you can imagine if you suspect that it contains mercury, and then it takes 3 weeks, and then eventually you realize it doesn't contain mercury, the person who is importing would have lost a lot of time and money in that. So this presents another challenge. Thirdly, there is limited restriction of global sales of these skin lightening products to be able to reinforce or complement existing national measures. This is quite a big problem. As you see in the slides to come, there are already online sales that have products that were initially prohibited with very, very significant quantities of mercury. Not forgetting that the countries have porous borders, including Uganda. So the sales on online platforms are quite many within the African countries, and they have products that were banned, especially skin lightening products that contain mercury. That table below you see just shows you the product brands, the product names, the online platforms that sell them, the countries of origin. But just look at that last column with that very, very high content of mercury. It is really quite significant, but also quite worrying, because we are victims of such products. You know, even some of them are not, well labeled, you can't read, so you only realize later that it had or was containing mercury. Next, please. And then this is where we are coming from as the Africa region. We had a meeting between 11th or 12th, 13th in Nairobi, and one of the key agenda was to discuss this particular amendment. And really, it was most of the countries that participated, or if not all of them, were in agreement. But however, adjustments can always be made during COP5 or as we continue to deliberate. But this came out very significantly in our meeting. So Part A, under Annex A Part A, it is proposed that the 1 part per million mercury threshold for banning cosmetics is eliminated. And why are we saying that? That we have limited capacity, like I have initially informed you. The parties within utilize handheld devices to efficiently conduct market surveys through inexpensive screening for mercury for the SALPs. Even the customs officers can use the same equipment to test for consignments and minimize delay. And here I would want to emphasize that at one point I used to use a product for over 8 years. It was labeled as organic, and if you read it, the contents, there were botanical names. So I really felt secure that it was really organic until when, and I used to use it on children, even the newborns, until when I went looking for it again, and they told me, oh, the standards the standards unit found that it contained mercury. So it's not even obvious to a common person that such a product would contain what? There are limitations in labeling. So many countries, including EU, have no thresholds in their limits. So this can happen as well in the Africa region. The second part, which is Annex A Part 2, mercury added skin lightening products are still widely available on local markets, even via the internet. Even domestically, the ones that we produce, some of them contain mercury, and it's not easy to tell until, even when enforcement takes place, it is expensive. So additional steps need to be taken to curtail sales and offer sales as well as to reinforce and complement existing measures that include the following indicated to the slides to come. So the proposed amendments under Part 1, Part 2, Annex A to the convention are as follows: setting national objectives to phase out sales and offering all sales, including but not limited to carrying out 2 or more of the following. So the measures that you're seeing there are more or less like action plan measures. So a country can choose to take either all measures depending on their national circumstances, or take up all the measures, but in addition, develop a national action plan. We have tested the goodness in the national action plan in the area of artisanal small-scale gold mining. We think the same can be done, that when we remove the other 1 part per million, different actions can be taken by separate different governments, depending on their national circumstances. Next, please. So in conclusion, we know that there are parties that already have existing measures in place, like I've indicated to you. Some have the regulatory framework that banned these products off the market, or that in the process of banning them off. We are saying that if this amendment is adopted, those countries may continue with their existing laws, but update them once national circumstances allow to the adopted decisions. Or those who haven't taken any steps can now embark on the very steps to be in line with the adopted decisions. And of course, this is also dependent on data. So parties need to be supported to carry out an inventory of sources and quantities of SLPs, including alternatives that meet consumer demands. My presentation stops there, but I would wish to emphasize that the issue of use of skin lightening products with mercury and their pollution of innocent people is quite high. And for us as the Africa region, this is a huge burden in terms of also waste management, but also in terms of our health. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Anna, for bringing all these points and showing us the vulnerabilities and the difficulties that is faced by the Africa region, and hence the need also for solution for that and stronger regulation. And thanks for presenting us this amendment and its rationale. We are now going to move to the second presentation. Just before going there, I just want to say a quick note for the questions. We are going to take them at the very end. So because I think someone raised his or her hand, so just keep this for the end of the meeting, and we will go back to that. Thanks. But so moving now to the global level, because we are now going to present the latest report published by the Zero Mercury Working Group about the online marketing of toxic skin lighteners. And this presentation is going to be shared with Michael Bender and myself. Michael Bender is International Coordinator of the Zero Mercury Working Group and also the Executive Director of the Mercury Policy Project. So yes, let's start this presentation, and we are going to tell you more about this. So as you may have heard about the Zero Mercury Working Group, It works on really various different issues related to mercury, but one of them is the skin lightening issue. And it started its work in 2017, and since then it has worked with many partners, as you can see on this slide, who have been involved in various sampling work that we have been doing. And those on the slide here are the partners that have been involved in the last reports, in the last sampling that has led to our last report that we are going to introduce today. Going to the next slide. You can see here the number of reports that we have been doing. So since between 2017 and 2022, we had 3 reports that focused on both local markets and then on online sales. And during that period, we managed to collect a number of more than 700, I mean, between 700 and 800 products of skin lightening products around the world. And we then tested them to know what they contain in terms of mercury. And actually 33% of them had mercury over 1 ppm. And this year we have our new report that is coming, and this is the 4th report, and we decided to focus on online platform only. And we managed to collect, with the help of our NGOs partners, to collect 213 products of skin lightening products that we purchased from 23 e-commerce sites. We tested them and we found that actually 90% of them had mercury over 1 ppm, which actually show how wide and easy it is to find those creams online. Also, just to, as a side note, we also have those results were published via our report, but we also created last year the online database, the Zero Mercury Working Group online database that you can find on our website. We can also share the links, and there you will find all the results from the past testing, but also results and alerts that were coming from governments. So moving to the next slide, and actually getting back to the results, you can see all the online platforms that we have screened and from where we purchased skin lighteners. And you can also see the number of skin lighteners where we found mercury over 1 ppm. And as you can see, basically all the platforms we looked at had had creams that contain mercury, except 2. But it is also important to note that we didn't purchase all the creams that we found online, because that would have been impossible. But it doesn't mean, it's not because here it appears that the cream didn't have mercury, then the online platforms selling creams that are safe. So yeah, it's only a few creams that we managed to test here. So moving to the next slide. I would like to give you a couple of other observations that we have made. I mean, obviously, we have been showing since 2017 that the illegal trade and production continue despite the global ban, but also despite the work that we have been doing in contacting online platforms and telling them about the issue. So yes, there is a clear lack of accountability of online platforms. Creams keeps being sold online. In terms of country of origin, meaning when we looked at the packaging of the creams, we saw that for the country of manufacture or the distribution, Pakistan, Thailand, and China were the ones that were so often mentioned, but we had also 13 other countries that were also mentioned. And also it's important to note that not all the creams actually mention from where they come from. So sometimes we just don't have that information. Also, another observation we've made is that there can be also misleading packaging or inaccurate information that is appearing on the package. We had this example with the cream Aki Formula A Apple cream. We purchased it, I mean, actually that creams on the packaging, it says that it had not mercury, so you can believe that it is kind of safe. But we tested it 6 times, and each time it had mercury and even went beyond 100 ppm. So it's also quite a lot of mercury that we managed to find in those creams. And as a last observation, well, the issue is not just about mercury, it's also about mercury compound. As you can see on that specific cream, so the non-oily deluxe silk and bleaching creams, it clearly states that it contains ammoniated mercury, so compound, and at the level of 3%. So, so yeah, just to say that this issue continues really a lot, and it is a global issue that concerns all the countries. And now I would like to leave the floor to Michael Bender, who will explain us more about why an amendment is needed, and will complement with some additional recommendation. Yes, Michael, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Charlene, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Again, my name is Michael Bender. I'm the International Coordinator of the Zero Mercury Working Group, and I just wanted to pick up on one important point that Charlene made regarding the mercury compounds. Currently in the Minamata Convention, mercury compounds are not regulated, although there is a provision within the convention that instructs the Conference of the Parties to look at this issue at some point in time, and so we're quite hopeful that that can be looked at COP5, because a number of these producers and traders are using these mercury compounds, putting them in skin lightening products, and essentially say that it's legal to do so. So why the proposed African regions amendment matters. As you may be well aware, the treaty does have a prohibition on the manufacture, import, and export of mercury levels in cosmetics, not more than 1 part per million threshold currently. But we're seeing a ever increasing proliferation of toxic skin lightening products, not just containing mercury, but many other hazardous ingredients. And just because we are, in a short timeline here to present, we're not going into a lot of detail on the health risk, but the World Health Organization has a great fact sheet on that, and there's more information on the internet. So the African Regions Amendment would complement and strengthen the existing provisions within the convention. We've already heard from on that. The specific details in general, the African Regions Amendment would ensure a zero tolerance, meaning that all mercury added cosmetics would be prohibited. And as we heard earlier, it would be much more cost effective and enabling to not only foster market surveillance by governments, but also civil society. We can, and we have, and continue to help governments with market surveillance. And as Charlene mentioned, we now have a database of over 1,000 products. And secondly, curtailing the online sales, marketing, and merchandising of mercury SLPs. And we have seen some voluntary initiatives around the world, in particular the EU Product Safety Pledge, which is a voluntary agreement that engages some of the major online platforms, and that EU product pledge is now being a similar version of that's being implemented in 2 or 3 other countries, including Korea, Australia, and I think Canada. And so there is some movement in that area. Thirdly, we need to spur interagency cooperation and collaboration, as well as regional and global coordination. And we're already seeing a number of examples out there. And again, going back to the EU example, there's what they call the Safety Gate RAPEX, which the member states feed in information that they have acquired whenever they identify high mercury skin lightening product, and many other products as well. It's not just limited to skin lightening products. And then finally, we need to enhance the awareness of the hazards of toxic skin lightening products. And we know, in a way, this goes without saying, but in this particular area, there are many challenges involved, since major advertising is directed in towards promoting use, and what we really need is a more balanced approach. CNN recently did a series on that, and it was very helpful for raising awareness. Next slide, please. So the principles for online legal reform, it seems there needs to be some kind of clear liability rules to be established and enforced with significant penalties, with e-commerce platforms ensuring that the sellers comply with the laws or regulations of the country the product's being sold into, and that the consumer needs the same information online as is required for sales in stores. And this presents the issue of the unfair playing field, where domestically there appears to be more compliance from the larger stores and manufacturers, not so with these online platforms selling into the country, since there's this question of all these thousands of third-party sellers that could be coming from different parts of the world and that don't have any legal presence within a country that the online platform would serve as the home country legal representative. And then finally, that the online platforms must be held responsible for ensuring the compliance with third-party seller verification, including the information ingredient disclosure requirements and several other important requirements. Next slide, please. So the steps to address the illegal toxic skin lightening product trade, we had researched it in 2019, and the report you see here is up on our website, on our Zero Mercury Working Group Skin Lightening Campaign website. And we identified four sort of main areas, and some of this is reflected in the African regions amendment, proposed amendment. First, there needs to be a legal framework, including, some kind of a legal, national legal requirement not allowing sales of mercury added products. There needs to be some kind of a division of responsibilities, and this isn't just for skin lightening, it's for all mercury added products. The Zero Mercury Working Group has developed a checklist of steps that countries can take to phase out all mercury added products, with a strong emphasis on stakeholder and interagency discussion and collaboration. There needs to be supporting tools and measures such as detention lists, alert systems, or advisories. And again, there are several regional examples out there. The EU Safety Gate I mentioned earlier, in Asia, ASEAN Cosmetics post-marketing alert system, and there's one in a sub-region in Africa as well. And then in terms of inspections and sanctions, there needs to be significant deterrent, including fines and penalties, screening tools, informing consumers for better market surveillance. And then finally, as we mentioned earlier, the importance of interagency and international cooperation. Next slide, please. And this is my next to last slide. What we're happy to see is that there's been what they call a backlash against fairness or glowing creams. And there's been many countries that have had discussions where this is actually spilled out into the media. If you go onto YouTube, there's a number of videos that are very good out there discussing the obsession with skin color and the rationale for the natural skin. And then finally, next slide, please. Just to wrap up with conclusions and recommendations, illegal and unscrupulous manufacturers are producing and profiteering from these skin lightening creams and producing a global mercury crisis, warning concerted international action. We know that pretty much all of the Article 4 product categories are going to get phased out in the next few years. Hopefully most of them, and what we'll be left with is this ASGM of product challenges, which is the skin lightening with mercury added. Enforcement is key to stop the manufacturing. All mercury compounds should be banned. Online platform liability reform is desperately needed as a deterrent to stop these online platforms from essentially profiteering from toxic trade in these skin creams, and that there needs to be collaboration between government agencies domestically and internationally. And finally, the African region's proposed amendment seeks to address these challenges, and we think is a good step forward to address many of these issues. And final slide. So for more information, we would encourage you to go to our campaign, where our website, where all of our reports are listed, and our database is there, as well as a number of fact sheets and videos. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Michael, for this presentation, going towards, showing us some recommendation and also steps to address this illegal trade and manufacture of illicit products, and also showing us some backlash that are happening in various countries, including in Pakistan. And speaking of which, I would like actually to invite you to move to Pakistan now with a presentation from Dr. Razia Safdar, who is health policy advisor at the Sustainable Development Policy Institute. And she met with dermatologists, she collected their views, and she's going to share them with us today. So Razia, the floor is yours. Razia, we cannot hear you. I don't know if it's a question of unmute button or not. Ah, great. Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you can
Okay,
go
thank
ahead.
you. Thank you very much for inviting me for this webinar and the floor. I'm from Sustainable Development Policy Institute, working on environment and climate change for the last 30 years, and it has been working on chemicals for the last many years, and the mercury since 2016 they have been working on, and they did a very a large study, and which we was shared with you which is present on the website also. So next slide, please. So as Pakistan is the party to the Minamata Convention, and Pakistan ratified Minamata Convention in 2020, and it came into force in March 2021. And according to the Minamata Convention, it prohibits the manufacture, import, and export of the mercury containing skin whitening creams, which is with a concentration of more than 1 parts per million. And because mercury is the third most hazardous chemical in the environment as well as in the use, and so it has many health impacts on the skin health impacts, as well as systemic health effects. Even with the 3 months continuous use of the mercury can lead to the health impacts which are significant. So so it is on the health impacts are the most important, which can be we can advocate to the people so that they can stop using these mercury containing skin whitening creams. So the skin whitening creams are particularly produced in the Asia and the more than 1 m. So this is very important. And but this Southeast Asian and the Pakistanis are, as Michael has mentioned previously, that we are obsessed with the fairness. And the next slide, please. And it is the beauty is considered, the fair skin is considered as a beauty, a mark of the beauty, because as you know that we are all our complexion is brownish type. So so it is usually in the what is shown in the advertisements of these skin whitening creams, like the fairness is linked with the success, confidence, and high social acceptance. And in our part of the world where the marriages are usually arranged marriages. So the fairer girl can get a good match, or the fairer boy can get a good match, and it is a agency of humility and the power also. So Pakistan is so that's why there is a great need. So Pakistan is produces 17.2% of the global skin whitening creams, which are obviously as mentioned in the previous slides also. So this overwhelming majority of the affectees are usually the young women and their unborn offsprings as well. So during the from a database from the Zero Mercury Working Group, it is found that the 164 skin lightening products are present in Pakistan, and on the market survey, it was found that 97 were are documented in the market. So the many of the creams are banned in the multiple countries as well as in Pakistan. And so far, there are different studies, and from the 2012 to the 2016, and there are 59 creams are investigated. And with one of the study was done by the SDPI as well. So next slide, please. Next, please. So, according to for the policies and legislation and regulatory situation in Pakistan is that the Ministry of Climate Change is the custodian of the Minamata negotiations and the compliances, and they have done like a lot of work on the other aspects of the Minamata Convention, like dental amalgam and phasing out the chloral mercury from the industry. And in 2016, there was a restriction was imposed on the import of the mercury and the mercury compounds, and it was allowed only for the in small quantities for the industry. And legislation on mercury content and the advertisement for of these advertisement is not there. And the Pakistan Standards and Quality Control Authority is there to who is responsible for making the standards for different products, and it has made us the standard is there of 1 ppm, but it is not fully implemented. And the National Hazardous Waste Management Policy and the National Chemical Control Act is a recent intervention which addresses with the import of the mercury, and which will be monitored strictly. And on the health side, it intersector Pakistan has made the universal packages for the in universal health coverages for the health as well as for the intersectoral interventions, which are the information and the providing the information and the education for the skin whitening for the mercury containing products to the population, so that they can their health can be protected. Next, please. So this is just a study, previous studies which were done in 2012 and by the different, and these studies, SDPA study done in 2016 was like it has shown that the 60% of the skin whitening creams they contained a higher content of the mercury than 1 ppm, so much so of the about more than 26,000 as well. And these are the comparison of the different studies, and also there were 25% of the creams they had more than 5,000 ppm of mercury, and which is the most hazardous. So in continuation of that, we did another activity recently on at SDPI with the roundtable meeting with the dermatologists. Please, next slide, please. Dermatologists being the agent of change, because they are the experts, and the patients, they see many patients of these which are affected by these skin whitening creams. So this was the expert engagement, and the broader themes discussed were scale of the problem and the major complaints and the conditions where the patients are presented, and the general public awareness. And next slide, please. And according to this and we put the survey also with these dermatologists as well as on the online survey, and we could see we had the 35 responses on the survey, and the results of these surveys shows that 63% are presented with the facial skin problems of the patients are presented, and 43% of the dermatologists see the more than 10 patients per week. On average, more than 30% of the patients come from the come for the complexion skin lightening. And next, please. And they were also, next slide, please. And on the patient side, they are not aware of it. Most of the patients, at 86%, are not aware of the toxic substances like mercury present in the skin whitening creams. And 90% of the patients are not aware of the hazardous effects. But the dermatologists, they consult, almost all of them say they consult the patients regarding these. Next slide, please. And so the few takeaways are from as a party, the Pakistan needs to prohibit the manufacture, import, and trade of the skin whitening creams having more than 1 ppm mercury, and improve the capacity of monitoring tools, like the quality labs are not available to detect the mercury in the skin whitening creams. And there is a regulation of the beauty salons is very important, because that is the first contact of the patient, which goes where the patient goes, and they give them some cocktail, and which further deteriorate their skins. And addressing the platforms sale is very important, because this is very the origin of the product is not known. And initiating a discussion at the expert level, like in conferences, in seminars, and the higher forums like Pakistan Association of the Dermatologists, so that there can be some policy interventions. And awareness of the general public by utilizing all forms of the media, and including social media, and making a counter narrative against the advertisements which are for the skin whitening creams, and also the changing the concept of beauty, which is the public included in the public awareness. Next slide, please. So thank you very much for this. And if we click on this link which is given, so we can see that how these advertisements are very, very promote that the beauty, like the fairness is associated with the confidence and with the success and all. If we have time, we can see that. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Razia. And maybe for the video, I would suggest that you put the link in the chat so that people can directly access it. And but I can also help you out with that. But thanks a lot for showing the seriousness of the issue from a health perspective. Also telling us that actually few people are aware of the impact of those creams and the use of those creams. So, and indeed, that this is also an issue that is linked to the social pressure you can get from your community, and that there is hence also a racial injustice here too. So thanks a lot, Razia. And now I suggest that we move to another presentation and going to actually concrete examples that can be put in place, that are put in place at the moment in the Philippines. So measure that helps to control mercury-added products in the market. And we are going to have here a presentation from Ana Trinidad Rivera, who is director at the Center for Cosmetics and Household Urban Hazardous Substances Regulation and Research at the Food and Drug Administration in the Philippines. So Ana, the floor is yours.
Charlene, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. And we would like to thank the organizers for inviting the Philippines to do the presentation today. Next slide, please. So the outline of my presentation would be on the regulatory framework of cosmetics in the Philippines, standards development in the ASEAN and heavy metal limits, and controlling mercury-added cosmetics. Next, please. So let me first introduce you to the ASEAN, which is comprised of the 10 member countries, namely Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Laos PDR, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, which is considered as a very important player in the global trade with a market of greater than 500 million people, as compared to EU's greater than 300 million. It has a very strong economic alliance to meet its key goals of economic integration in the region with the end goal of trade liberalization and facilitation. So for the ASEAN, we have the ASEAN Harmonized Cosmetic Regulatory Scheme, which is one standard scheme, just like the EU, for regulating cosmetic products. And this was signed last September 2, 2003, and that starting from January 1, 2008, a product produced or marketed in any signatory country and meeting the requirements of the scheme would be able to enter other signatory countries. The most significant aspect of this harmonized scheme is that all ASEAN member countries will move from the traditional and preferred approach of pre-market approval to the new approach of post-market surveillance for cosmetic products. The scheme aims to remove technical barriers to trade by harmonizing regulatory and technical requirements across ASEAN without compromising product safety and quality. So, under this scheme, the ASEAN Cosmetics Committee has been established to coordinate, review, and monitor the implementation of the ASEAN Cosmetics Directive. And for the Philippines, we have the Republic Act number 3720 as amended by Republic Act number 9711, which regulates cosmetic products through the Center for Cosmetics and Household Urban Hazardous Substances Regulation and Research. So cosmetic product regulations implemented by the FDA Philippines are in accordance with the standards adopted in the ASEAN through the agreement of the ASEAN Harmonized Cosmetic Regulatory Scheme. Next slide, please. So the ASEAN cosmetics standards are being reviewed and maintained through the ASEAN Cosmetic Scientific Body of the ASEAN Cosmetic Committee. And the Philippines is currently the chair of the ASEAN Cosmetic Scientific Body. The ASEAN Cosmetic Scientific Body has been established to assist the ACC in reviewing the safety and technical data of ingredients and making recommendations on other technical and safety issues for adoption by the ACC. The ACSB consists of representatives from the regulatory authorities, the industry, and the academia. So we convene semi-annually, usually in May and November of every year, to present the technical review, which was done intersessionally, and make recommendations pertaining to cosmetic standards, including ingredient prohibitions and restrictions to the ACC. The ASEAN, we have what we call the ASEAN Guidelines of Limits of Contaminants for Cosmetics, which are developed by taking safety and quality requirements into consideration. The limits set are guidelines for use during the finished product analysis, which is performed as part of an in-market inspection. So the heavy metals technically are banned in cosmetic products, and this can be deliberately added, or they are normally listed in Annex 2, which is the negative, what we call the negative list, unless their presence is in trace amounts and is technically unavoidable under good manufacturing processes. So even before the Minamata Convention, that is in December of 2007, the limit for mercury contamination was set through the 8th ACSB and the 9th ACC meetings at 1 ppm. Next slide, please. So again, I would like to reiterate that mercury and its compounds are banned in cosmetics with a maximum limit for unavoidable traces, since we all know that mercury is a naturally occurring element. So we have set a maximum limit of 1 ppm when tested by the ASEAN cosmetic method. And based on the recent updates on mercury-containing preservatives, in the 31st ACSB and the 31st ACC meetings in November of 2019, mercury-containing preservatives such as thimerosal and phenylmercuric salts were also removed from the list of allowable preservatives in cosmetic products and is now included in Annex 2 in the list of banned ingredients. Next slide, please. So in terms of the regulations, we have first the pre-market authorization, which we call the notification. And this is where cosmetic products must be notified with the FDA prior to being placed in the market. I think I heard Michael said earlier that the ingredients should be disclosed. And this is the step where the market authorization holder should disclose the information on the ingredients of the products that is going to be marketed within the ASEAN region. So this includes compliance also with ingredient restrictions. And we also implement post-market surveillance, which includes information on audits, collection by the inspectors with regards to samples collected in the market, and then verification and testing. And then we issue out public health warnings and product recalls and other enforcement activities. Next, please. So you can check the FDA website. We have issued 32 public health warnings. And when we issue out public health warnings, this is distributed also to the other ASEAN member states through the ASEAN Post-Market Alert System. And based on this, we have already covered 207 cosmetic products which were found to contain heavy metals, including lead, arsenic, and mercury. Next, please. So you can visit our website for the different advisories that we have issued out with regards to cosmetic products that we have monitored in the market. Next, please. So in 2020 to 2022, 7 legal orders have been executed against establishments distributing, selling mercury-contaminated cosmetics as part of the enforcement powers of the FDA. Next slide, please. I think this is my last slide. So following the adoption of the ASEAN Cosmetic Directive, the FDA employs a risk-based approach in regulating cosmetic products to ensure both consumer safety and trade facilitation. This international cooperation also allowed for the creation of shared safety standards, as well as the creation of alert systems within the ASEAN network. And then violative products, particularly those contaminated with mercury, are more often found in establishments and products which do not go through regulatory notifications. And when consumer alerts or public health warnings allow dissemination of information, there are still violative products found in the market as can be seen through enforcement activities. Thus, vigilance is required. Even though we have banned these ingredients, we still need to do post-market surveillance activities. And very importantly, we have consumer awareness campaigns together with the civil society groups and non-government organizations to conduct post-market surveillance and regulatory enforcement. I think that ends my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot, Anna, for this presentation, showing us what FDA in the Philippines is doing, but also showing us that despite the current regulation and despite market surveillance, it remains quite a great challenge. And that seems to indicate indeed that more stricter measure needs also to be there to complement all this work that you do. So thanks a lot. I think we have a couple of minutes to take some questions. Not that long, but we have a bit, and I think so. I would invite you to, if you want to raise, if you want to say your question orally, you can raise your hand, and we will give you the floor. And I see there is also a question in the chat. Okay, and Michael, I see also that you also took the floor. So let me maybe. Sorry, read the question. Michael, if you want to reply to it or not, up to you. But then afterwards we can continue. But the question is regarding the proposed amendment, how would regulators deal with CLPs with trace amounts of mercury? How would they establish whether the mercury had been intentionally added? So, Michael, I leave you the floor. Yes.
Thanks, and thanks, Ken, for that question. And this came up on a prior call, so I don't have all the answers right now, but based on 4 rounds of testing, multiple years, what we're seeing in the data is when mercury is added to the skin lightening creams. You know, and Charlene, maybe you can chip in if you have a better understanding of the numbers, but generally what we're seeing is numbers in the hundreds, if not the thousands. I understand that governments want to be accurate in their assessments, and what I can say is that it's similar to what we do with our product testing. That will, in the very beginning, we did all lab testing, and we almost, we blew the budget in 1 year on that. But what we're seeing now is that if you look at all of our data sets, there is very little low mercury products. But in the case where there are products that come in at very low levels, just like what we do with our testing, we send 10% of our tests from handheld testing devices to the lab for quote QA/QC, quality assurance, quality control. So if you run into a subset that, let's say it's under 50 part per million, 10 part per million, then there could be an additional step if there's questions about whether this is a trace amount or whether this is a mercury, this is bigger. So Charlene, do you have any take on, what percent of the tested product are under 100 ppm or in the less than 100 range?
I cannot give you like below 1 ppm. I cannot tell you, like, I don't remember exactly.
No, but above.
But it's
between...
very low. I mean, it's very low. It must have, usually you have creams above 1 ppm and way above it. So yeah, and maybe just to add from what Michael said, I mean, there are also other countries that have a zero tolerance policy, so 0 ppm, and so it is also would be also good to check with them then how they are doing. And it seems that if it is visible somewhere else, then why not also for everyone? So yeah, maybe just this to complement Michael on this thought. And I don't know if any other speaker would like to react to this question. I also have a question from Olubuni Ajawi, sorry. What is the science behind 1 ppm limit? Well, I don't know if any of the speaker panelists would have a reply to that. Yes, Michael?
I don't have the citation for this, but the 1 ppm was not based on a health standard. It was just based on a convenience standard to, in the event where manufacturing already has trace amounts in their plumbing or in their systems. It was an easy way to deal with the trace issue. But no one has determined that the 1 part per million has been, that I'm aware of, is based on a health standard. What I keep hearing from WHO is there is no safe level for mercury in the body. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Michael. And I'm checking if there is anyone else who would like to raise the hand. We only have 2 minutes left. I'm turning then to the panelists if they want to share last thoughts before closing the meeting. And well, I don't see any reaction. Okay, then I'm going to close the meeting, but before that, I just would like to thank all the panelists for being here today, sharing our thoughts and what needs to change. For those who are listening, while listening to us, you can see the links in the chat and learn a bit more about what we have been doing. And just a final thing, next week, there is actually going to be another webinar that will take place about the same issue. And there is an uncover investigation that has been done by the Environmental Investigation Agency. And it will actually publish new evidence, new elements about this illicit production, trade, and sale of mercury-added skin lightening products. I'm going to share the links in the chat. If you are interested, please register. I think it's going to be very interesting. So yes. Well, thanks a lot. Then I'm closing the webinar for today, and well, have a nice evening, afternoon, or morning. Yes, see you soon. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you.